Is my voice audible to you all?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. So we will wait for another 2 minutes. If some more people join in, then we will start off with the class. Okay, so in the last class, we have stopped at the prototyping model. We were studying the prototyping model, and there we were studying that, okay, no one needs to write your name in the chat box because the LMS is up now. So I will be directly sharing the portal, and from there you can directly give your attendance. Okay. So the prototyping model which we were discussing in the last class, due to the time was end, it stopped abruptly. Yes, say anyone wants to say anything? Okay. So what was the first necessity or first field where the prototype model was used? I was discussing. Can anyone recall and say? Anyone? Do not write your name in the chat box, Varsha and Preeti. I just said that I will be sharing the LMS. Please listen to what I am saying. Anyone can say that when we were studying this prototyping model, then what was the first field or first thing in where I was using the prototype model? In making which type of applications I was using the prototype model?
Ma'am, graphical is a interface
Graphical
part of
interface.
the software.
Very good. Very good. Right. So in GUI part, it was used for making the GUI part of any software. It was seen that if I use a prototype model, then it becomes easier for the user to form an opinion that whether the GUI is suitable or not, and if that is suitable to the customer, then the company will make the original one. Now the second field where it is used is that the it is useful for, especially, do not write your name in the chat box. Sheetal, Dolly, Suresh, Golden, I am repeatedly saying, are you people deaf or you can't understand the English or the language which I am speaking in? Right from 9:05 I'm going on saying do not write your name in the chat box. It's past 3 minutes, people are going on writing your names. करते क्या हो, म्यूट पे लगा देते हो क्या लेक्चर मोबाइल ऑन करके?
मैम हम नहीं सुने थे,
सुनोगे
हम अभी
कैसे?
ज्वाइन किए थे इसलिए।
सुनोगे कैसे? म्यूट पर चला दो हो तो। इसलिए तो कोई क्वेश्चन पूछता है तो कोई आंसर ही नहीं आता है क्लास में. दिस इज द सिनेरियो ऑफ यू पीपल. The prototyping model, it is specially useful that when suppose exact technical solutions are unclear to the development team, then suppose the way the customer is explaining the things that the customer is demanding, the customer is not being able to explain it properly to the development team. So the technical solutions, they are very unclear to the development team. So in those type of scenario, a prototype can help them in order to examine the critical or the technical issues that are associated with the product development. For example, suppose that a situation is there where the development team has to write a command language interpreter. Okay, as a part of the GUI development, he needs to write a command language interpreter, but none of the team members who are developing, they has ever written a compiler before. Okay, so this is the first time they need to write the command language interpreter. Then this lack of familiarity of the development team with the required development technology is a risk. And this risk, how can it be solved? By using a prototype compiler. That is, for suppose if I ask the development team that you build the prototype for a small language compiler in order to understand the issues that are associated with writing a compiler for a command language. So if I ask the development team कि ठीक है, तुम्हें अगर उतना कमांड लैंग्वेज नहीं बनाना आता तो तुम तुम्हारा सी लैंग्वेज में एक छोटा सा करके बनाओ, उसको बनाने के बाद वो प्रोटोटाइप बनाओ, वो प्रोटोटाइप बनाने के बाद तुम देखो उसको रन करने में तुम्हारा क्या क्या इश्यूज हो रहा है. अगर वो इश्यूज तुम्हें समझ में आ रहा है तो तुमको पता चल जाएगा कि हाई एंड कॉमन लैंग्वेज में क्या क्या इश्यूज हो ही सकता है. इसके अलावा भी इश्यूज आएगा, बट एटलीस्ट बेसिक इश्यूज विच यू नीड टू बी टेकन केयर ऑफ इन ऑर्डर टू मेक द एक्चुअल कमांड लैंग्वेज इंटरप्रेटर प्रोटोटाइप, वो तुम्हें समझ में आ जाएगा. So this type of risks, they can be solved. So once they feel confident in writing this small language compiler, then they can use this knowledge in order to develop the compiler for the command language. Okay. So this, in this type of scenarios where the technical solutions are not that much clear to the development team, they can form a prototype, work on that, and they can formulate some idea that what are the errors we need to be aware of, or what are the errors we need not need to commit when we want to build the actual software. Is this thing clear? Yes or no?
यस मैम।
Okay. So this prototyping model, it is, and also there was one scientist who was involved with this software engineering process named as Brook. He said that always it is beneficial to throw a certain prototype in order to develop a good software later on. So if I want to build something concrete in later on, I should at least build a prototype in order to see that whether my software is working fine or not. So the prototyping model, it is considered to be useful for the development of not only the GUI part of a software, but also for a software product for which certain technical issues are not clear to the development team. So first it is important for making the GUI, and where certain technical issues are not clear to the development team. Okay. So this is the concept about why, how the prototype model works and why the prototype model actually comes or works or is used. Now we will discuss the life cycle activities of the prototyping model. In order to do that, first I will draw the picture, then I will be explaining the different life cycle activities. Okay. So okay. So this is the drawing, or this is the graphical representation of the prototype model. First, the requirements gathering is done. That is, which we have studied for any software development life cycle. The requirement analysis and specification phase, first it is done. Then after the requirement is gathered from the customer, we will build a prototype. Now remember one thing, this prototype which we will be building is a prototype and not the actual software. So this prototype will be thrown away after it is seen. That means I will first and gather what is required from the customer, then I will build a prototype of that, and then after I have studied the prototype, that what the errors are coming, what are the things that needs to be incorporated more, I will make this prototype visible to our customer, he will suggest something, like so on. After this is done, I will simply throw away the prototype or keep aside the prototype, and then I will start working on my actual software. So after this requirement gathering, analysis and specification is done, then we make a quick design of the prototype, then we build the prototype, then we take the customer how it evaluates of the prototype. The client who has approached the company, we make this prototype visible to that company so that he will say some suggestions that whether this is the type of thing they are wanting or not, whether a few incorporations of their suggestions they are wanting or not. So then again we will refine the requirements, and then we will incorporate the customer suggestions, whatever they are demanding. And then again I will design work on the design of the prototype. Then again I will improvise my prototype. Like this cycle will go on till the customer accepts that yes, this is the prototype that I am wanting. You go ahead. I am satisfied with your prototype of my software. Now you make the actual software. So once the prototype is accepted by the customer, then I will actually start working on the actual software. And as we know, the actual software phases are, then we will start with the design phase, implementation phase, like coding, coding and all. Then we will do with the testing phase. Then we will be the last phase is the maintenance phase. So from maintenance phase we can go we can have feedback paths to any of the phases. So this is the entire picture. First requirement gathering, then prototype, make this prototype to visible to the customer. Whatever the new suggestions he is saying, incorporate those suggestions, revise the prototype. Once the prototype is accepted, then you start working on your actual software. Then you design, implement, test, maintain, whatever you do, the phases related to actual software development life cycle. Fine. So from this step till this step, this is the prototype development, right? And from this design phase to this phase is following the iterative classical waterfall model. So this is the iterative development, है ना? This phase is just following the classical waterfall model with the additional feedbacks. That is the iterative waterfall model approach, right? So this is the iterative development phase. And this phase from requirement analysis to the acceptance by the customer, this is a new phase which is added. This is where the prototype is developed. So this is the prototype development phase. And from this to this is the iterative development phase. Is this model or how this prototype is working, is it clear? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So as we can see, the life cycle activities of this prototype model, it is consisting of two basic development activities. One activity is the prototype development. Another activity is the iterative development. Now this prototype development, as we can see, it starts from this requirement analysis, that is initial requirements gathering. It will analyze the requirements, it will gather the information, then analyze it, whatever it is. So after that, a quick design is carried out and a prototype is built. Now this developed prototype, it is then submitted to the customer for this evaluation, and whatever suggestions are said, it is again incorporated and refined design is done and refined prototype is made, and this cycle is carried on till customer feedback is coming and this modification of prototype is going on. Okay. And there will be a time finally, after all the modifications are incorporated, the customer will accept the prototype. So from this requirement gathering to acceptance by the customer, this is the prototype development phase. And then the iterative development phase will start. That is, once the customer approves the prototype, the actual software is developed. that is using the iterative waterfall approach. As you can see, there are feedback paths, and from this I can easily say it is a iterative waterfall approach. So like this is the concept. Now, as I was saying, the code for which the prototype is there, that is the code in which it is made for making the prototype, the code for the prototype, it is usually thrown away, because after getting, we just make the prototype in order to get an idea. So this is not the actual thing which we implement. So the code of the prototype is generally thrown away. But however, the experience that is gathered from developing the prototype, it helps a great deal in developing the actual software system. Okay. So even though the construction of a throwaway prototype, it might involve some like additional cost for systems with unclear customer requirements, and suppose for कोई माइक चला के बात करने लग जाता है, हाथ हाथ में लग के ऑन भी हो जाता है, पता भी नहीं चलता. दिस इज द वे यू अटेंड क्लासेस. Anyways, never mind. So, why the concept is, we are saying that we will build a prototype and we will throw it. After that, we will actually start working on our actual software after we get an idea that how do we develop our software which the client demanded. Then why do we need that? First, the thing is that why are we needing that? When we are saying that we will throw the prototype, then obviously the cost which is involved in building the prototype, it is an extra cost, and it's a burden to the organization because we will be throwing out the prototype. Then why should we incur this extra cost? It's a common query which may come to your mind. So why it is done? We have just discussed that for systems with unclear customer requirements and for systems with unresolved technical issues, those type of systems where the development team is not so prone or not so confident in making the software at the first go, and the customer also is not so confident about saying or what he wants. Actually, it's not that much prone in saying that what is exactly his requirement. In those type of situations, it is seen that even if there is an extra additional cost involved in making the prototype and then later throwing away, still the overall development cost usually turns out to be lowered compared to an equivalent system supposed developed directly using the iterative waterfall model. सो अगर जहाँ पे मेरा कस्टमर रिक्वायरमेंट्स कस्टमर को ही इतना क्लियर नहीं है, और जो रिक्वायरमेंट दे रहा है डेवलपमेंट टीम वो पहली बार सपोज वर्क कर रहा है, वो भी उतना कॉन्फिडेंट नहीं है, देखा गया है कि उस सिचुएशंस में अगर पहले हम प्रोटोटाइप बना लेते हैं, फिर एक आइडिया हो जाता है, फिर हम लोग एक्चुअल सॉफ्टवेयर के ऊपर बनाते हैं, उस पर ज्यादा कॉस्ट लग के भी एक्चुअल ओवरऑल डेवलपमेंट कॉस्ट कम होता है इन कंपैरिजन टू हम पहले ही इटरेटिव वाटरफॉल मॉडल से ही एक्चुअल सॉफ्टवेयर के ऊपर ही काम करना स्टार्ट करते हैं. ओके, सो इट इज बेटर. वाई? बिकॉज एक स्टेज आके लगता है कस्टमर क्या बोल रहे हैं पता नहीं चल रहा है, डेवलपमेंट टीम क्या बना रहे पता नहीं चल रहा है, देन वी विल हैव टू वेट till all the testing is done, system testing is done, so much phases has been done. After that we may give it to the customer in order to take a feedback. So already a lot of more cost is associated. So even if some additional cost is there for building the prototype, it is seen that overall development cost is lower. And this is the reason why we still follow this prototype making procedure. That is for critical type of solutions, we require this type of procedure in order to maintain our or build our actual software. Is the entire concept about this prototype model clear? The introduction, the necessity, the life cycle activities with this graphical representation, and why, even if the cost of building a prototype is more, still the overall cost becomes less. Is this entire concept clear? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So
Yes, ma'am.
by constructing the prototype and by submitting it to the like user evaluation or customer evaluation, many customer requirements they are properly defined, and also the technical issues get resolved by experimenting with the prototype. So this minimize the change requests from the customer and the associated redesigning of the codes. So since it minimizes, so those projects where it suffer from technical and requirement risks, those type of project we generally construct a prototype, and a constructed prototype helps us in overcoming those risks. Okay. Okay, wait. I will be first sharing the. Okay, so everyone give your attendance first. Then we will start off with the next topic. Is it done? Is it done?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Okay. So now we will study the next model, that is the incremental development model. Okay. So this life cycle model is sometimes referred to as successive versions model also. Why? We will be discussing those. Okay. So sometimes we say it as incremental development model, sometimes we say it as successive versions model. So both the names, it is for this model only. So in this model, what happens is, first, a simple working system. Suppose like implementing a few basic features, it is built and it is delivered to the customer. So first, a simple working system with some basic features, few basic features. In fact, not all the basic features. It is built and it is delivered to the customer. It is built plus delivered to the customer. Okay. And over many successive iterations, successive versions are implemented and then they are delivered to the customer until the desired system is made. That means, suppose I have this, then with this I have this, then with this and this I have this. Okay. So A is one module of the product or the software. A is one module of the software product. Okay. So B is also one module. C is also one module. So A, B, C, these are different modules of the software product. So these are incrementally developed and they are incrementally delivered. That is, they are developed in successive iterations and successive versions are implemented. So in first iteration, the module A is implemented. Then in next iteration with A, module B is implemented. Then in next iteration with module A, B, module C is implemented. So in incremental nature, layer by layer, we incorporate more and more modules to the system, and as a result, as an end product, we get the desired system, what we were wanting. So this is the concept about this incremental development model. So in the incremental development life cycle model, the requirements of the software, they are first broken down into several modules or several features. That is, the requirements which we are gathering, they are broken down into several modules or features, whatever you may call it, into several modules and features, and these are incrementally constructed and incrementally delivered. So this is the pictorial representation of how this is done. So at any time, plan is made only for the next increment and no long-term plans are made. No, this is an important thing. No long-term plans are made. Okay. So therefore, it becomes easier in order to accommodate the change requests from the customer. It becomes easier. Why is it easier? Suppose my software has 3 modules. First, I develop module 1 and I show it to the customer. Are you satisfied? If he says no, I will not go to the next module. I will work on this module only. Once the customer is satisfied with my module, then only I will start working with the next module. Then again I will show it to the customer. These 2 modules I have made. Are you satisfied? So it is very easier to accommodate the change requests that will come for the customer if I use this incremental model concept approach. So the development team, they first undertake to develop the core features of the system. So when I have the requirement and I break down into several features, the development teams, they first choose what is the most important or the core feature of my entire program. They will start working on those features first. So the core or the basic features, they do not need to invoke any other services from other features. So those are the features that the development team will start working with, because the basic features, they can be implemented independently. So they will start or they will invoke or start making this type of features first. Then on the other hand, the non-core features, like the features which will require service from other core features, then they will make those. So first the basic features that do not require service from other features is made, then the non-core features that require service from these basic features, then they are made. So in this way, the incrementally the features or the products are being made. So once these initial core features they are developed, then these are right according to the level of capability, and new functions are added. That means I will first make a feature, then I will make all the basic features, then I will see that what extra functions can I add to these basic features, which will in a way be required by the non-core features as well. So then after making the basic features, I will then incorporate or introduce those additional new functionalities, and then I will be making this. So this is a incremental version that is developed using again as an iterative waterfall model of development. So this entire thing that is at each successive iteration steps, successive version of the software is constructed, that is delivered to the customer. The customer feedback is obtained on what is delivered to him, and then these feedbacks are incorporated in the next version. So I deliver, suppose I make this module A, I deliver it to the customer. Customer says that some things need to be incorporated. So again, when I will incorporate it with module B, I will make the changes in module A, then I will make module B, and then again deliver it to the customer. So one version is made, delivered to the customer, refinement is feedback is coming, then refinement of this version is made, then again in the next process, that version where the requirement was needed, additionally with one new version, both combined is again delivered to the customer. So each delivery of this software, it incorporates some additional features over the previous version, and also so it will refine the features that were already delivered to the customer. So this refinement process, this additional incorporation process, everything is going on and going on. So after this requirement gathering and the specification is done, the requirement is split into several versions. Starting with the core version of the software, the development team starts making it. In each successive increments, the next version is constructed using an iterative waterfall model of development, and each of these versions are deployed to the customer. So after the last version has been